Kelsey Morgan stood in the hospital parking lot at 8:47 p.m., still wearing blood-stained scrubs, staring at her phone with mounting dread. The text had come an hour ago. Still waiting, table by the window. She should have canceled. She should have rescheduled. Instead, she was about to walk into an upscale restaurant looking like she'd survived a war zone, about to meet a man who would take one look at her and leave. But what terrified her most wasn't his inevitable rejection. It was the small, stupid part of her that still hoped he might stay. If you want to see how a terrible first impression turns into something completely unexpected, stay with me until the end and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let me tell you what happened next. The restaurant's warm lighting felt like an accusation. Kelsey pushed through the heavy glass doors of Marcello's, immediately aware of how wrong she looked. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, men in pressed suits and women in cocktail dresses, all speaking in that hushed, refined tone that made her want to disappear. And then there was her. Wrinkled navy scrubs with a suspicious stain near the pocket, hair falling out of what had been a ponytail 12 hours ago, and the kind of exhaustion that had settled into her bones like concrete. The hostess's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second, professional enough to recover, but Kelsey had seen it. That micro-expression of confusion, the silent question, "Are you sure you're in the right place?" I'm meeting someone, Kelsey stammered, already feeling heat creep up her neck. Ethan? Ethan Cole? He should have a reservation. The hostess glanced at her screen, her expression smoothing into practiced politeness. Of course. Right this way. Kelsey followed her through the maze of tables, acutely aware of every eye that tracked her movement. She caught a woman leaning toward her companion, whispering something behind a manicured hand. A waiter stepped slightly to the side as she passed, as if whatever chaos she carried might be contagious. This is a mistake. This is such a mistake. And then she saw him. Ethan Cole sat at a corner table by the window, exactly as promised. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't checking his watch. He was simply sitting there, looking out at the street with the kind of stillness that seemed impossible in a world that never stopped moving. He wore a dark button-down, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and there was something about the way he held himself, grounded, present, that made Kelsey's stomach twist with something between hope and terror. He looked up as she approached, and his eyes met hers. She waited for it. The disappointment, the flash of regret, the silent calculation of how quickly he could end this and leave. Instead, his expression softened. Kelsey? I'm so sorry. The words came out in a rush before she could stop them. I know I'm late. I had back-to-back traumas, and there was this kid with a head injury, and his parents were... It doesn't matter. I should have texted more. I should have... Hey. His voice was calm, steady. Breathe. Kelsey blinked. What? Ethan stood, pulling out the chair across from him. Sit down, drink some water, then we can talk. She stared at him, waiting for the catch, for the passive-aggressive comment about her being inconsiderate, for the tight smile that said this is fine when it clearly wasn't. But there was nothing, just patience. Slowly, she lowered herself into the chair. Her legs were shaking, whether from the 12-hour shift or the adrenaline of walking in here, she wasn't sure. Ethan poured water from the carafe into her glass and slid it across the table. Drink, he said simply. She did. The cold water hit her system like a reset button, and she realized she hadn't had anything to drink in hours. She'd been too busy, too focused, too consumed by the endless rhythm of the ER. Assess, stabilize, move on. Assess, stabilize, move on. When she set the glass down, Ethan was still watching her. Not with judgment, just attention. I really am sorry, she said quietly. This isn't how I wanted tonight to go. How did you want it to go? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. Better than this. I wanted to be on time, wearing actual clothes, maybe having showered in the last 24 hours. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. For what it's worth, I don't care about any of that. You should, Kelsey said, the word sharper than she intended. I'm a mess. I'm always a mess. And if you're smart, you'll finish your drink and get out of here before you realize just how much of a disaster dating an ER nurse actually is. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her with those steady, unreadable eyes. You done? Done with what? Trying to convince me to leave. Kelsey's mouth opened, then closed, because that was exactly what she'd been doing, wasn't it? Preemptive rejection. Get it over with now, on her terms, before he could do it later when it would hurt more. I've been on bad first dates, Ethan said evenly, and this isn't one of them. I showed up an hour late covered in someone else's blood. You showed up. His eyes didn't waver. That counts. Something in Kelsey's chest cracked open, just a fraction. She'd been bracing for disappointment for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like when someone didn't give it to you. So, Ethan said, picking up the menu, have you eaten today? Kelsey tried to remember. Breakfast had been a protein bar at 6 a.m. Lunch had there been lunch? Not really. Then let's fix that first. Everything else can wait. The food arrived, pasta for her, steak for him, and Kelsey realized with some embarrassment that she was ravenous. She'd been running on fumes for so long that her body had stopped sending hunger signals, but now, with real food in front of her, the deprivation hit all at once. So, Ethan said as she took her first bite, tell me about the kid with the head injury. Kelsey paused, fork halfway to her mouth. You actually want to know? Wouldn't have asked otherwise. She set her fork down, trying to organize the chaos of the last 12 hours into something coherent. 10-year-old boy, fell off his bike, no helmet, came in unconscious. Parents were hysterical, which I get, but it makes everything harder. We had to intubate him, get him stabilized for a CT scan. Turns out he had a subdural hematoma, bleeding between his brain and skull. We got him into surgery just in time. Is he going to be okay? We think so, but it was close. Kelsey's hands tightened around her water glass. If his parents had waited another 20 minutes to bring him in? She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Ethan nodded slowly. That's why you were late. Yeah. Kelsey looked down at her plate. I couldn't leave until I knew he was stable. His mom, she was falling apart, and his dad was trying to hold it together, and I couldn't walk away from that. I wouldn't have wanted you to. Kelsey's head snapped up. What? If you'd left that kid to make it here on time, I would have thought less of you. Ethan's expression was serious, unwavering. What you do matters. I'm not going to be the guy who makes you choose between saving lives and showing up for dinner. The words hit her like a physical force. She'd heard variations of understanding before. I get it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But those reassurances always came with an expiration date. Eventually, the missed plans added up. The canceled dates became a pattern. The understanding curdled into resentment. But Ethan wasn't saying it like a temporary concession. He was saying it like a fact. Most people don't mean that, Kelsey said quietly. Not long term. Then you've been dating the wrong people. She wanted to argue, to list all the reasons why it wasn't that simple, to explain that she'd tried this before, tried to make it work with someone who claimed to understand, only to watch the relationship crumble under the weight of her schedule. But something about the way Ethan looked at her, steady, certain, made the words die in her throat. Tell me about you, she said instead, desperate to shift the focus. My friend Sarah set this up, but she was annoyingly vague. She just said you were solid and that I should give you a chance. Ethan's mouth quirked. Solid. That's what I'm going with on my dating profile. Better than doesn't run away when his date shows up covered in blood. He laughed, a real laugh, warm and unguarded. Fair point. Okay, I'm a contractor. I run my own company. We do residential renovations mostly. Kitchens, bathrooms, whole house remodels. Do you like it? I love it. I like taking something broken and making it work again. And I like working with my hands. There's something honest about it. Kelsey found herself leaning forward, genuinely curious. What made you get into it? Ethan hesitated, and for the first time she saw something flicker across his face. Not discomfort exactly, but the careful consideration of how much to share. I needed a job that gave me flexibility, he said finally. Because I have a daughter, Lily. She's 7. You're a single dad? Yeah. He met her eyes. Is that a problem? No, of course not. Kelsey's mind was already spinning, recalculating. A single dad. That meant custody schedules, school events, another human being whose needs came first. That meant complications. But it means you actually understand what it's like to have your life not be your own. Ethan's expression softened. Yeah, I do. Where's Lily tonight? With my mom. She takes her one Friday a month so I can pretend I have a social life. He smiled, but there was something bittersweet in it. I don't get out much. Join the club. Kelsey took another bite of pasta, the tension in her shoulders finally starting to ease. So what does Lily think about you going on dates? She thinks it's hilarious. She helped me pick out this shirt. Kelsey felt her own smile break through. She has good taste. She also told me I had to bring you flowers, but I wasn't sure if that was too much for a first date with someone I'd never met. Probably for the best. I would have killed them by now anyway. They fell into an easy rhythm after that, trading stories, asking questions, laughing at the absurdity of trying to date as two people whose lives were already impossibly full. Kelsey learned that Ethan had been raising Lily on his own for 4 years, that his ex-wife had left when their daughter was 3, that he'd built his business from nothing while figuring out how to do bedtime routines and pack school lunches. And Ethan learned that Kelsey had been an ER nurse for 6 years, that she'd chosen emergency medicine because she liked the controlled chaos, that she had a habit of bringing home every stray cat she found until her apartment complex threatened to evict her. How many cats do you have now? Ethan asked. 3, but in my defense, they were all dying when I found them. That's not a defense, that's a confession. They were dying, Ethan. He held up his hands in surrender, grinning. I believe you. Somewhere between the main course and dessert, Kelsey realized something unsettling. She was having fun. Real fun. The kind that didn't involve gallows humor in the break room or stress-drinking wine on her couch. And more than that, she liked him. Ethan was funny without trying too hard. He listened like it mattered. He didn't fill every silence with noise, and he hadn't checked his phone once. Can I ask you something? Ethan said as the waiter cleared their plates. Sure. Why did you agree to this, the blind date? Sarah said you turned her down 3 times before you said yes. Kelsey felt her defenses start to rise, then forced them back down. Honestly, I don't know. I think I was tired of saying no. Tired of pretending I was fine being alone when I wasn't. You don't have to pretend with me. The words were simple, casual even, but they landed with unexpected weight. I don't know how to do that, Kelsey admitted. Not pretending, I mean. I've spent so long making myself smaller, easier, less demanding. I don't think I remember how to just be myself. Ethan's eyes held hers. Then maybe that's what we figure out. They left the restaurant just before 11. The night air was cool, a welcome relief after the warmth inside. Kelsey stood on the sidewalk, suddenly unsure of what came next. Did they hug? Shake hands? Make plans to do this again? I had a good time, Ethan said, saving her from the spiral. Despite your best efforts to convince me otherwise. Kelsey laughed, a real laugh that surprised her. I really am sorry about being late. Stop apologizing. His tone was gentle but firm. Seriously, you're allowed to have a life that doesn't revolve around other people's schedules. Easy for you to say. No, it's not. Ethan stepped closer, and Kelsey's breath caught. But I'm going to keep saying it until you believe me. That might take a while. Good thing I'm patient. They stood there for a moment, the city moving around them, cars passing, people laughing from a nearby bar, the distant wail of a siren that made Kelsey instinctively tense. But Ethan didn't seem to notice. Or if he did, he didn't care. Can I see you again? He asked. Kelsey's heart did something complicated. You really want to? I wouldn't ask if I didn't. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to say yes so badly it scared her. But the old patterns were already creeping in, the voice that whispered this wouldn't last, that she'd mess it up, that he'd eventually get tired of her chaos and leave like everyone else. I work weird hours, she said, hating how defensive she sounded. And I can't always predict when I'll be free, and sometimes I get called in on my days off, and… Kelsey. Ethan's hand found hers, warm and steady. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking if you want to try. She looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face, at the patience in his eyes, at the genuine interest that hadn't wavered once all night. Yeah, she said softly. I want to try. His smile was like sunrise. Good. Mom. Over the next 3 weeks, Kelsey learned what trying actually looked like. It looked like Ethan texting her good morning even when she'd worked a night shift and wouldn't see it for hours. It looked like him sending her pictures of Lily's latest art project or a funny sign he'd seen on a job site. It looked like him suggesting coffee at 7 a.m. because that was the only time she had free between shifts. And it looked like him never once complaining about how hard it was. Their second date was at a diner near the hospital. Her choice, because she only had an hour before she had to be back. Ethan showed up with a sketchbook and spent the time drawing while she told him about a patient who'd tried to convince her that essential oils could cure a broken leg. Their third date was a walk through the park with Lily, who peppered Kelsey with questions about whether she'd ever seen anyone's brain, just on scans, sweetie. And if she had a boyfriend, that's complicated. And if she liked unicorns, who doesn't? Their fourth date didn't happen because Kelsey got called in to cover someone's shift. She texted Ethan at the last minute, already crafting an apology, already bracing for his disappointment. His response came immediately. No problem. Stay safe. We'll reschedule. No guilt trip, no passive-aggressive comments. Just understanding. It should have been a relief. Instead, it terrified her. Because Kelsey knew how this story went. She'd lived it before. The guy who seemed perfect at first, who claimed her schedule didn't bother him, who said all the right things, until the canceled plans stacked up and the resentment started to bleed through. Until the patience wore thin and the understanding turned to frustration. She'd watched it happen with Marcus, her ex-boyfriend of 2 years. He'd been supportive at first, proud even, telling his friends he was dating a nurse who saved lives. But that pride had an expiration date. 6 months in, he started making comments about how she was married to her job. A year in, he stopped inviting her to things because, what's the point if you're just going to cancel? By the time it ended, Kelsey had felt like a ghost in her own relationship, present but not really there, apologizing for existing, shrinking herself smaller and smaller to take up less space in his life. She'd promised herself she wouldn't do that again. Wouldn't twist herself into knots for someone who couldn't handle the reality of who she was. But Ethan was making that promise very, very difficult to keep. Their fifth date was at his house. Kelsey had been nervous about this one. Meeting at a restaurant or walking in public felt safe, neutral. But going to his home felt intimate in a way that made her palms sweat. It meant crossing a threshold, literally and figuratively. Lily's with her grandmother tonight, Ethan had said when he invited her. But I thought I could cook you dinner. Something that doesn't involve you running out the door halfway through. She'd agreed before she could talk herself out of it. Ethan's house was a small craftsman-style bungalow in a quiet neighborhood. The kind of place with tree-lined streets and front porches and the faint sound of wind chimes. He met her at the door, barefoot and wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. "Fair warning, it's a work in progress." The inside was exactly what she'd expected. Warm, lived in, a little chaotic. There were toys scattered in the corner of the living room, a half-finished puzzle on the coffee table, and photos covering every available surface. Pictures of Lily at various ages. Pictures of Ethan with an older woman who had to be his mother. Pictures of job sites and completed renovations. "Your house is beautiful," Kelsey said, and meant it. "It's a disaster," Ethan corrected, but he was smiling. "But it's ours. Come on, I'll show you the kitchen. That's the one room I actually finished." The kitchen was stunning. White subway tile, butcher block counters, open shelving lined with mismatched dishes. It was the kind of space that felt both functional and loved, like it had been designed by someone who actually cooked rather than someone trying to impress. "You did all this yourself?" Kelsey asked, running her hand along the smooth wood. "Most of it. Had to call in a plumber for the sink, but the rest is mine." Ethan moved to the stove where something was already simmering. "I'm making risotto. Hope that's okay." "You're making risotto from scratch? Is that impressive?" "Ethan, I can barely make toast without burning it." He laughed. "Then this should be good for my ego. Grab a seat. Wine's in the fridge if you want some." Kelsey poured herself a glass and settled onto one of the bar stools, watching as Ethan moved around the kitchen with easy confidence. He stirred the risotto, added stock, tasted, and adjusted. There was something hypnotic about it, the rhythm, the care, the quiet competence. "You really love this, don't you?" she said. "Cooking." I love feeding people I care about. He glanced over his shoulder, and the look in his eyes made her chest tighten. And yeah, I like cooking. It's one of the few things I can control. Everything turns out the way it's supposed to if you just follow the steps. I wish the ER worked like that. I bet. Ethan turned back to the stove. How was your shift today? Long. We had a car accident come in, family of 4. Everyone survived, but it was touch and go for a while. Kelsey took a sip of wine, trying to shake off the weight of the day. The dad kept asking if his kids were okay, and we couldn't tell him anything until we'd stabilized them. He fell apart, right there in the hallway. Did they make it? Yeah, all of them, but it's moments like that. When you see someone's whole world hanging in the balance, it reminds you why the job matters. Ethan set down his spoon and turned to face her fully. You're really good at what you do, aren't you? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. I try to be. That's not what I asked. Kelsey shifted on the stool, uncomfortable with the directness. I'm competent. I know what I'm doing. But good feels like a stretch. Why? Because I make mistakes. I lose patience. I second-guess myself. She looked down at her wine glass. I'm just doing my best, and sometimes my best isn't enough. That's not failure, Kelsey. That's being human. She wanted to believe him, wanted to accept that truth without the crushing weight of every mistake she'd ever made. But the voice in her head, the one that sounded like Marcus, like her mother, like every person who'd ever made her feel like she wasn't enough, wouldn't let her. Come here, Ethan said softly. Kelsey looked up. What? Come here. I need a taste tester. She slid off the stool and joined him at the stove. Ethan scooped a small amount of risotto onto a spoon and held it out to her. She leaned in, tasted it, and felt her eyes widen. Oh my God. Good? Ethan, this is incredible. His smile was pure pride. Yeah? If the contractor thing doesn't work out, you could open a restaurant. I'll keep that in mind. He set the spoon down, but he didn't step back. They were standing close now, close enough that Kelsey could feel the warmth radiating off him, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Kelsey, he said quietly. Yeah? Stop waiting for me to leave. Her breath caught. I'm not. Yes, you are. His hand came up, gentle, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Every time we're together, I can see you bracing for it, waiting for me to get tired or frustrated or fed up. But I'm not going anywhere. You say that now. I'll keep saying it until you believe me. Kelsey felt tears prick her eyes, unexpected and unwelcome. You don't know what you're signing up for. Then tell me. I'm a mess, Ethan. I work 60-hour weeks. I forget to eat. I cancel plans. I bring home emotional baggage from every shift. I have 3 cats and a plant graveyard and a tendency to overthink everything until I've convinced myself it's falling apart. The words tumbled out, desperate and raw. And eventually, you're going to wake up and realize this isn't worth it. Ethan's hands framed her face, gentle but firm. Look at me. She did. I'm not Marcus, he said. I'm not whoever else hurt you, and I'm not going to punish you for having a life that matters. How do you know about Marcus? Sarah might have mentioned him, and before you get mad at her, I'm glad she did, because now I know what I'm up against. His thumbs brushed her cheeks. You're not too much, Kelsey. You're exactly enough. The dam broke. Kelsey didn't mean to cry, didn't mean to let the fear and exhaustion and desperate hope come spilling out, but Ethan's arms were around her, solid and sure, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she let herself break. I'm sorry, she gasped against his chest. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Stop apologizing. His voice was firm, brooking no argument. You're allowed to feel things. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let someone in without waiting for them to leave. Then we'll figure it out together. She pulled back enough to look at him, eyes red and face blotchy. What if I mess it up? Then we'll figure that out too. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. Ethan's smile was soft, certain. I like you. You like me. Everything else is just details. Kelsey laughed, a watery, broken sound. You're either the most patient man alive or completely delusional. Can't it be both? She kissed him then. Not because it was the right moment or the perfect time, but because she couldn't not kiss him. Because he'd seen her at her worst and hadn't flinched. Because he'd caught her mid-spiral and told her to breathe. Because for the first time in her life, someone was asking her to be exactly who she was. When they finally broke apart, Ethan's forehead rested against hers, both of them breathing hard. "So?" he said, voice rough. "Still want dinner?" Kelsey smiled against his lips. "Yeah, I really do." They ate risotto at his kitchen table, and Kelsey realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this light. This scene. Ethan told her about Lily's latest obsession with dinosaurs, and she told him about the hospital politics she usually kept to herself. They talked about nothing and everything, and when the plates were empty and the wine bottle drained, they moved to the couch. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Ethan said, pulling her against his side. Kelsey thought for a moment. "I'm terrified I'm going to end up alone." "Why?" "Because everyone leaves eventually, and I've started to think maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem." Ethan's arm tightened around her. "You're not the problem. You've just been with people who couldn't handle how much you care." "Is that what you think? That I care too much?" "I think you care exactly the right amount. And I think the world needs more people like you." Kelsey closed her eyes, letting the words sink in, letting herself believe just for a moment that maybe he was right. "Your turn," she said. "Tell me something you've never told anyone." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "I'm scared I'm going to screw up Lily, that I'm going to make all the wrong choices, and she's going to grow up resenting me for it." "You're an amazing dad, Ethan. You've met her once, and I saw how she looks at you, like you hung the moon." Kelsey turned to face him. "You're doing better than you think." "How do you know?" "Because you care enough to worry about it." They sat in comfortable silence, the weight of their confession settling between them like an agreement, like a promise. "Kelsey?" "Yeah?" "I'm really glad you showed up an hour late, covered in blood." She laughed, the sound filling the quiet room. "Me too." The weeks that followed felt like learning to breathe in a new rhythm. Kelsey found herself checking her phone between patients, smiling at texts that had nothing to do with work. Ethan sent her pictures throughout the day. Lily's lopsided pancakes, a sunbeam hitting his coffee just right, a stray cat he'd found on a job site that made him think of her. Small things. Ordinary things. Things that somehow made the chaos of her shifts feel manageable. "You're glowing," Sarah said one afternoon in the break room, eyeing Kelsey over her sandwich. "It's disgusting." Kelsey tried to hide her smile and failed. "I'm not glowing." "You absolutely are. You've checked your phone 6 times in the last 10 minutes. Sarah leaned forward conspiratorially. "So? How's it going with Ethan?" "It's good. Really good." Kelsey set down her protein bar, something warm unfurling in her chest. "He's not like anyone I've dated before." "Because he's actually decent? Because he doesn't make me feel like I have to apologize for existing?" Sarah's expression softened. "Kels, you deserve that. You know that, right?" Kelsey wanted to believe her, wanted to accept that simple truth without the asterisks and qualifications her brain automatically attached. But old habits died hard, and the voice that whispered she was too much, too difficult, too demanding, hadn't learned to shut up yet. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Lily wants to know if you can come to her soccer game Saturday. No pressure. She just thinks you're cool." Kelsey's heart did something complicated. Meeting Lily at the park had been one thing, casual, low stakes. But a soccer game felt different. It felt like stepping into their life in a way that was harder to walk back from. "What is it?" Sarah asked, reading her expression. "Ethan's daughter wants me at her soccer game. And that's bad because it's not just dating him anymore. It's becoming part of their life, and what if—" Kelsey stopped, the familiar spiral starting in her chest. "What if what? What if it works out?" Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. "You can't keep waiting for disaster, Kelsey. Sometimes good things actually happen." Kelsey looked down at her phone, at the message still glowing on the screen. She typed out a response before she could talk herself out of it. "I'd love to come. What time?" The answer came immediately, 10 a.m. "Fair warning, she's terrible. But she tries really hard." Kelsey smiled. "Sounds like someone else I know." "Careful. That almost sounded like you were talking about yourself without self-deprecation." Baby steps. I'll take it. Saturday morning arrived with unseasonably perfect weather, clear skies, mild temperature, the kind of day that felt like a gift. Kelsey stood on the sideline of the soccer field, coffee in hand, watching 7-year-olds chase a ball with more enthusiasm than coordination. She spotted Lily immediately, number 12, her dark ponytail bouncing as she ran in the general direction of the action. You made it! Ethan appeared beside her, holding a thermos and wearing a faded baseball cap. He looked younger somehow, more relaxed than she'd seen him in dress shirts and date clothes. I made it, Kelsey confirmed. No emergencies this morning. Don't jinx it. They stood together as the game unfolded, if the chaotic swarm of children could be called a game. Lily spent most of her time running enthusiastically in circles, occasionally getting near the ball, more often distracted by dandelions growing along the sideline. She's got spirit, Kelsey offered diplomatically. Ethan laughed. She's got no idea what she's doing, but she loves it. So here we are. Every Saturday morning, rain or shine. How long has she been playing? This is her second season. Last year she scored 1 goal for the other team. He said it with pure fondness, no embarrassment. I've never seen a kid celebrate harder. She had no idea she'd kicked it the wrong direction. Kelsey felt something warm settle in her chest. You're a really good dad, you know that? Ethan glanced at her, something vulnerable flickering across his face. I'm trying. Most days I feel like I'm making it up as I go. Isn't that what all parents do? Probably, but when it's just you, there's no one to confirm you're not completely screwing it up. Before Kelsey could respond, Lily's team scored, or rather, one of Lily's teammates scored while Lily was examining a butterfly. But Lily cheered anyway, jumping up and down with her arms raised like she'd won the World Cup. That's my girl, Ethan murmured, and Kelsey saw the pure love in his expression, the uncomplicated pride. When halftime arrived, Lily came barreling toward them, sweaty and grinning. Kelsey, you came! Of course I came. I wouldn't miss it. Did you see me almost get the ball? I did. You were so close. Lily beamed, then looked up at her dad. Can Kelsey come for ice cream after, please? Ethan raised an eyebrow at Kelsey. You up for post-game ice cream? Fair warning, she'll want to tell you about every second of the game in excruciating detail. I would love that, Kelsey said, and meant it. No. The ice cream shop was packed with other soccer families, all riding the high of participation trophies and sugar. Lily ordered a cone with 3 scoops, chocolate, strawberry, and mint chip, that was taller than her face. Ethan got vanilla. Kelsey chose coffee. They sat at a sticky picnic table outside, Lily chattering between licks of rapidly melting ice cream. And then Emma passed to Sophie, but Sophie was looking at a cloud, so the ball just went into the woods, and Coach Mike had to go get it, but he stepped in mud, and his shoe came off. Lily paused for breath and ice cream. It was so funny. Sounds like quite a game, Kelsey said, working hard to keep a straight face. The best game ever. Well, except for the one where I scored, but that was for the purple team, and we're the blue team now. Lily frowned thoughtfully. I don't really get why that was bad. A goal is a goal. Different nets, sweetie, Ethan said patiently. Remember? We talked about this. I know, but it's confusing. Lily turned her attention to Kelsey. Do you play soccer? Not really. I played in high school, but I wasn't very good. What position? Defender mostly. I was better at stopping people than scoring. Lily considered this. That's important too. Coach Mike says defense is half the game. Or maybe he said half of half. I don't remember. Math is hard. Math is very hard, Kelsey agreed solemnly. Do you have kids? Lily asked suddenly, with the blunt curiosity only children possessed. Kelsey's smile faltered for just a second. No, I don't. Do you want kids? Lily, Ethan interjected gently, that's kind of a personal question. It's okay, Kelsey said, though her heart was beating faster. I think so. Someday, when the timing is right. Lily nodded sagely, as if this was a perfectly reasonable answer. My dad says timing is everything. Like when you're trying to kick the ball, you have to time it right, or you miss. Your dad is a smart man. I know. Lily grinned at Ethan, ice cream smeared across her chin. He's the smartest. Ethan pulled a napkin from the dispenser and wiped her face with practiced efficiency. How about you finish that cone before it melts all over you? They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching other families come and go. Kelsey felt hyper-aware of the picture they must make. A man, a woman, a child, all sharing ice cream on a sunny Saturday. It looked like something whole, something simple. It terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Kelsey? Lily's voice pulled her back. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you my dad's girlfriend? Kelsey's eyes shot to Ethan, who looked equally caught off guard. We haven't really, because Emma's mom has a boyfriend, and he comes to all her games, and you came to my game, so I thought maybe you were. Lily said it matter-of-factly. No judgment, just curiosity. Would that be okay with you? Kelsey asked carefully. If I was. Lily tilted her head, considering. Do you make my dad happy? The question hit Kelsey square in the chest. She looked at Ethan, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I hope so, Kelsey said quietly. He smiles more when you text him, Lily said. And he made fancy pasta last week. He only does that when he's happy. The risotto was for you, Ethan protested weakly. Uh-huh. Lily's knowing look was far too wise for 7 years old. She turned back to Kelsey. Then yeah, it's okay. Something loosened in Kelsey's chest. Thank you, Lily. You're welcome. Can we go to the playground now? They spent another hour at the park, Kelsey pushing Lily on the swings while Ethan took a work call. She watched him pace near the parking lot, phone pressed to his ear, occasionally running his free hand through his hair in a gesture she was learning meant stress. Higher, Lily demanded, and Kelsey obliged, sending the swing soaring. You're fearless, Kelsey observed. My dad says I don't have a scared bone in my body. Lily's voice rose and fell with the arc of the swing. But that's not true because I'm scared of spiders. And the dark sometimes. And vegetables. Kelsey laughed. Vegetables are pretty terrifying. Right? But my dad makes me eat them anyway. He says they're good for me. Lily made a face. Being healthy sounds terrible. It kind of is, Kelsey admitted. But your dad's right. You need vegetables. Do you eat vegetables? When I remember to eat at all, yes. Lily twisted in the swing to look at her. You forget to eat? How do you forget to eat? I get really busy at work, and then suddenly it's been 12 hours, and I haven't had anything except coffee. That's worse than vegetables, Lily said seriously. My dad would be mad at you. Would he? He gets mad at me when I forget to eat lunch. Well, not mad. More like worried mad. Lily dragged her feet to slow the swing. He worries a lot. Kelsey helped her come to a stop. That's because he loves you. I know, but Lily hopped off the swing and grabbed Kelsey's hand with sticky fingers. Do you want to see me go down the slide? Absolutely. They spent the rest of the afternoon in that easy rhythm, Lily performing increasingly elaborate playground tricks while Kelsey and Ethan watched from a nearby bench. At some point, Ethan's hand found hers, their fingers lacing together naturally, and Kelsey let herself lean into his shoulder. This okay? He asked quietly. Yeah, it's more than okay. Lily really likes you. The feeling's mutual. She's amazing, Ethan. She is. His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. I was nervous about this, about bringing you into her life. I get that. But watching you two together, he paused, searching for words. It feels right. Kelsey's throat tightened. It scares me how right it feels. Why? Because I'm so good at messing things up. And if this goes wrong, it's not just you I'm hurting, it's her too. Ethan turned to face her fully. So don't mess it up. That's not how anxiety works. I know. His expression was serious now, intent. But you can't live your life afraid of what might go wrong. Sometimes you have to trust that things might actually go right. Before Kelsey could respond, Lily came running over, breathless and glowing. I went down the slide backward. Did you see? I saw, Ethan confirmed. Very impressive. Very dangerous. But impressive. Yes, very impressive. Lily grinned, then looked between them. Are you guys being mushy? No, they said in unison, too quickly. Lily giggled. You're definitely being mushy, Emma's mom and her boyfriend are mushy all the time. It's gross. Noted, Ethan said dryly. We'll keep the mush to a minimum. Good, because I'm hungry. Can we get dinner? Ethan checked his watch. Yeah, we can do that. Kelsey, you want to join us? She should say no. Should give them family time, should maintain some boundaries, should slow this down before it became too real, too fast. But Lily was looking at her with such hopeful eyes, and Ethan's hand was still warm in hers, and the word that came out was, yes. They ended up at a family-friendly restaurant that was too loud and too bright, but served chicken fingers that Lily deemed acceptable. Kelsey found herself sliding into the booth across from Ethan, Lily settling in beside her like it was the most natural thing in the world. Can I color? Lily asked, eyeing the kids' menus. Go for it, Ethan said, handing her the small pack of crayons the server had provided. Lily immediately became absorbed in turning a cartoon dinosaur purple, her tongue poking out in concentration. Ethan watched her with that soft expression Kelsey was learning meant contentment, then turned his attention back to Kelsey. Thank you for today, he said. For what? For showing up, for being great with her, for not running away when she asked if you were my girlfriend. Kelsey felt heat creep up her neck. About that, we don't have to define it if you're not ready, Ethan said quickly. I just want you to know that I'm not seeing anyone else, and I'm not interested in seeing anyone else. I'm not either, seeing anyone else, I mean. Kelsey twisted her napkin in her lap. I'm not good at this part, the relationship part. I always mess it up. What if you don't? That's a pretty big if. So we'll figure it out together, one day at a time, no pressure. He reached across the table and she met him halfway, their fingers tangling. I like you, Kelsey. A lot. And I like how you are with Lily. And I like who I am when I'm with you. Who are you when you're with me? Lighter, happier, less afraid that I'm doing everything wrong. Kelsey felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back. You make me feel like I'm allowed to take up space. You are allowed. Always. Okay, that's definitely mushy, Lily announced without looking up from her coloring. Super mushy. They both laughed, and the moment settled into something warmer, easier. The food arrived, and they fell into comfortable conversation. Lily describing every detail of her upcoming school field trip to the zoo, Ethan telling stories about his latest renovation disaster involving a raccoon family living in someone's attic, Kelsey sharing the tamer ER stories that wouldn't give a 7-year-old nightmares. It felt like family. That was the terrifying part. It felt like something Kelsey could get used to, could build a life around, could lose herself in. And she'd learned the hard way that things that felt this good usually didn't last. 3 weeks later, Kelsey's phone rang at 2 a.m. She was used to middle-of-the-night calls, usually work, usually important, usually meaning someone's life was falling apart. But this time, the caller ID showed Ethan's number, and her heart immediately kicked into overdrive. Hello? She sat up in bed, already mentally cataloging worst-case scenarios. Kelsey, I'm so sorry to call this late. Ethan's voice was tight with stress. I know you worked a double, and you probably just got to sleep. What's wrong? Lily's sick. High fever. She's been throwing up, and I don't know if I should take her to the ER or if I'm overreacting, and my mom's out of town, and He stopped, and she could hear the fear underneath the words, the terror of being solely responsible for a small human's well-being. What's her temperature, Sam? Kelsey asked, her voice automatically shifting into nurse mode, calm, steady, clinical. 102.8. I gave her children's Tylenol an hour ago, but it hasn't come down yet. Any rash, difficulty breathing, stiff neck? No, and no. She's just miserable and can't keep anything down. Kelsey was already out of bed, pulling on clothes with one hand while balancing the phone with the other. I'm coming over. You don't have to. Ethan, I'm coming over. Text me your address. Kelsey, you just worked 16 hours. And I'm a nurse who's seen more sick kids than I can count. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up before he could argue, grabbed her keys, and was out the door before her brain could catch up with what she was doing. This was stepping over a line. This was inserting herself into their crisis. This was caring too much, too fast, too deeply. She drove anyway. Ethan met her at the door looking like he'd aged 5 years in the last hour. His hair was a mess, his t-shirt was on backward, and there was a smear of what looked like vomit on his shoulder. She's in her room, he said immediately. I didn't know what else to do. I've tried everything. Hey, Kelsey put her hands on his shoulders, grounding him. Take a breath. You're doing fine. Where's her room? He led her down a hallway decorated with Lily's artwork, into a small bedroom painted lavender and covered in glow-in-the-dark stars. Lily was curled up in bed, clutching a stuffed elephant, looking small and miserable. Hey, sweetheart, Kelsey said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. I heard you're not feeling so great. Lily's eyes opened, glassy with fever. My tummy hurts. I bet it does. Can I take a look at you? Lily nodded weakly. Kelsey went through a gentle examination, checking her temperature again, looking at her throat, palpating her abdomen, asking questions about what she'd eaten, when the symptoms started, whether anything else hurt. The whole time, Ethan hovered in the doorway, radiating anxiety. It's probably just a stomach bug, Kelsey said finally, brushing Lily's sweat-dampened hair back from her forehead. There's one going around. The fever should break in the next day or so, and the vomiting should stop within 24 hours. So I don't need to take her to the ER, Ethan asked, relief flooding his voice. Not unless her symptoms get worse or the fever spikes above 104. But for now, we just need to keep her hydrated and comfortable. Kelsey stood, addressing Lily. I'm going to talk to your dad for a minute, okay? But I'm not leaving. Promise? Lily's voice was small, scared. I promise. Kelsey led Ethan out into the hallway, far enough that Lily couldn't hear them. She's going to be fine, she said firmly, but it's going to be a rough couple of days. Do you have Pedialyte, saltines, ginger ale? I have, I don't know, maybe? Ethan ran his hands through his hair, and Kelsey saw how close to the edge he was. I'm sorry, I should know this. I should be better at this. You're doing great. Being worried doesn't mean you're failing. It means you care. She pulled out her phone. I'm going to order some supplies. There's a 24-hour pharmacy that delivers. And I'm going to stay tonight, help you through the worst of it. Kelsey, you need to sleep. I've pulled all-nighters before. I can handle one more. She met his eyes. Let me help you. Something in his expression cracked open. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You showed up for me. I'm showing up for you. That's how this works. They spent the night in shifts, one of them with Lily, while the other grabbed supplies, cleaned, or tried to rest. Kelsey showed Ethan how to coax small sips of Pedialyte into a reluctant child, how to position her to minimize nausea, when to worry and when to wait. Around 4 a.m, Lily's fever finally broke. She fell into a deeper, more restful sleep, her breathing evening out. Kelsey and Ethan sat on the floor outside her room, backs against the wall, exhausted and relieved. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. I was freaking out. All parents freak out when their kid gets sick. It's normal. I kept thinking about what could go wrong. What if it was something serious? What if I waited too long? But it wasn't, and you didn't, and she's okay. Kelsey let her head fall onto his shoulder. You're allowed to be scared, Ethan. That doesn't make you a bad dad. I'm all she has. If I mess this up, you're not going to mess it up. You love her. You show up for her. That's what matters. They sat in silence for a long moment, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and Lily's soft breathing from the bedroom. I love you, Ethan said suddenly, the words falling into the stillness like stones into water. Kelsey's breath caught. What? I love you. He turned to look at her, his expression raw and honest. I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring this out. But tonight, watching you with Lily, seeing how you just showed up without hesitation, I can't pretend I don't feel it. Kelsey's heart was racing, panic and joy warring in her chest. Ethan, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. But the words were stuck in her throat, tangled up with all the fear and doubt and old wounds that told her this wouldn't last, that she'd ruin it, that loving someone this much gave them the power to destroy her. I need time, she managed finally. I need time. Hurt flickered across Ethan's face, but he nodded. Okay. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I'm scared. I know, and that's okay. He pulled her closer, and she let herself sink into his warmth. Take all the time you need. But as Kelsey sat there in the quiet darkness of his hallway, Listening to Lily breathe and feeling Ethan's heartbeat against her cheek, she knew the truth. She was already in love with him. Had been for weeks, maybe. She was just too terrified to admit it. The morning arrived too quickly, gray light filtering through windows and the sound of birds marking the new day. Kelsey woke on Ethan's couch, a blanket she didn't remember being draped over her, and the smell of coffee pulling her toward consciousness. She found Ethan in the kitchen, making breakfast with the quiet efficiency of someone who'd been up for hours. He looked exhausted, but lighter, the panic of the night before replaced with tired relief. "She's still sleeping," he said before Kelsey could ask. "Temperature's normal. I checked an hour ago." "That's good. That's really good." Kelsey accepted the coffee mug he handed her, wrapping both hands around it. "How are you?" "Better. Thanks to you." "I didn't do anything special. You drove across town at 2 in the morning and stayed all night. That's pretty special." He leaned against the counter, studying her. "And about what I said, you don't have to take it back." "I'm not taking it back. I meant it. But I also meant it when I said you don't have to say it back. Not until you're ready." Kelsey set down her coffee, her hands trembling slightly. "I want to be ready. I want to be the person who can just feel things without overthinking them into oblivion. But I have so much baggage, Ethan, so many reasons to believe this won't work. And I have a daughter and an ex-wife and my own share of baggage. We're both messy. So what?" He crossed to her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for real. What if real isn't enough? What if it's more than enough?" Before she could answer, a small voice came from the hallway. "Daddy, I'm hungry." They both turned to see Lily standing there in her pajamas, looking pale but decidedly better. The crisis had passed. Life was moving forward, with or without Kelsey's permission. "That's a good sign," Kelsey said, managing a smile. "Hungry means healing." Ethan scooped Lily up, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "What sounds good, baby girl?" "Toast. And maybe juice, but not too much juice because my tummy is still weird." "Smart girl. Let's start with toast." Kelsey watched them move around the kitchen together, the practiced dance of father and daughter, and felt something shift inside her chest. This was what love looked like. Not perfect, not without fear, but showing up anyway. She just had to decide if she was brave enough to let herself fall. 2 months passed in a blur of ordinary moments that felt extraordinary. Coffee dates at dawn before Kelsey's shifts. Lily's school pickup runs where Ethan would swing by the hospital with his daughter in the back seat, both of them waving through the car window like she was the best part of their day. Sunday morning pancakes that turned into lazy afternoons on Ethan's couch, while Lily built elaborate block towers that always ended in dramatic collapses. Kelsey felt herself settling into their rhythm without meaning to, her toothbrush appearing in Ethan's bathroom, her favorite coffee creamer in his fridge, a drawer in his dresser that had somehow become hers. It should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like coming home. But she still hadn't said the words back. Every time they sat on the tip of her tongue, fear swallowed them whole. Because saying it out loud made it real, made it something that could be taken away, made her vulnerable in a way she'd promised herself she'd never be again. Ethan never pushed, never asked, just kept showing up, kept being steady, kept loving her with a patience that somehow made the fear worse. Because what if she couldn't give him what he deserved? What if her brokenness was too much for even him to handle? The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon in late October. Kelsey was in the middle of her shift when her supervisor, Dr. Patricia Chen, called her into the office. Patricia was a tiny woman with steel gray hair and the kind of presence that made residents stand up straighter, but her expression was uncharacteristically warm. "Sit down, Morgan," Patricia said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Kelsey sat, her mind already running through every possible mistake she might have made. A patient complaint, a protocol violation, something she'd missed in the chaos of the last shift. "You're not in trouble," Patricia said, reading her expression. "Quite the opposite, actually." Kelsey blinked. "I don't understand." "The hospital is opening a new trauma program. We're bringing in specialists, upgrading equipment, creating a dedicated team to handle our most critical cases." Patricia leaned forward, her eyes bright. "And I'm offering you the lead nurse position." The words took a moment to land. "What?" "You're one of the best trauma nurses I've ever worked with, Kelsey." You're calm under pressure, your clinical judgment is excellent, and your patients trust you. This program needs someone like you running it. Patricia slid a folder across the desk. The position comes with a significant raise, better benefits, and the opportunity to shape how we handle trauma care in this hospital. But it's also intense. Longer hours, more responsibility, more pressure. Kelsey opened the folder with shaking hands. The salary number made her eyes widen. The job description made her heart race. This was everything she'd worked toward, everything she'd sacrificed for, everything she'd dreamed about in those early days of nursing school when the world felt full of possibility. I need you to think about it, Patricia continued. I know it's a big decision. Take a few days, talk it over with whoever you need to talk it over with, and let me know by Friday. Thank you. I'll think about it. Good. Now get back out there. We've got a multi-vehicle accident coming in, 5 minutes out. Kelsey stood on autopilot, her mind spinning, the folder clutched in her hands like evidence of something she couldn't quite believe. She made it through the rest of her shift on muscle memory, her hands doing what they'd been trained to do while her brain replayed Patricia's words over and over. This was her dream. This was the validation she'd spent years chasing. This was proof that all the missed dinners and canceled plans and sacrifices had meant something. So why did it feel like standing on the edge of a cliff? She drove to Ethan's house without thinking, her car taking the familiar turns while her mind raced ahead to all the ways this could go wrong. He'd say he was happy for her. He'd say he supported her. And then, slowly, the resentment would build. The long hours would stack up. The missed moments would accumulate. And one day she'd look up and he'd be gone, just like Marcus, just like everyone who'd promised they could handle it. Ethan answered the door in paint-splattered jeans and a t-shirt that had seen better days, a smudge of dust across his cheekbone. Hey, I didn't know you were coming over. Lily's at my mom's tonight, and I'm in the middle of refinishing her bookshelf. He stopped, really looking at her. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Something's right, actually. I think. Maybe. The words tumbled out, panicked and disjointed. Can I come in? Of course. He stepped aside, concern etched into every line of his face. Come here, sit down. You look like you're about to pass out. She followed him to the living room, sinking onto the couch while he sat across from her, giving her space, waiting. I got offered a promotion, Kelsey said finally. Lead nurse for the new trauma program. It's a huge opportunity. More money, more responsibility, everything I've been working toward. Ethan's face lit up. Kelsey, that's incredible. Congratulations. You don't understand what it means. Then tell me. She gripped the folder so hard her knuckles went white. It means longer shifts, worse hours, more emergencies I can't walk away from. It means I'll have even less time than I do now. It means, her voice cracked, it means this isn't going to work. The words hung in the air between them, sharp and final. Ethan's expression shifted from joy to confusion to something harder to read. What isn't going to work? Us. This, whatever we're doing. Kelsey stood, unable to sit still, pacing the length of the room. I've been here before, Ethan. I've watched relationships fall apart under the weight of my career. And this promotion is going to make everything worse. I'm going to miss more plans, cancel more dates, disappear for longer stretches, and eventually you're going to resent me for it. No, I won't. Yes, you will. Everyone does. They say they understand, they say it's fine, but it's not fine. It's never fine. She was spiraling now, the fear she'd been holding back for months pouring out all at once. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt Lily. And I can't. I won't do that to you. Ethan stood slowly, his movements careful, like he was approaching something fragile. So what are you saying? I'm saying we should end this. Now. Before it gets worse. You want to break up because you got a promotion. I want to break up before you realize this was a mistake. Kelsey's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Before you wake up one day and understand that dating me means coming second to my job. Before Lily gets more attached and then I let her down. Before you have to risk actually being happy? Ethan's voice was quiet, but it cut through her spiral like a blade. Is that what this is really about? This is about being realistic. No, this is about you being terrified. He crossed to her, and she took a step back, hitting the wall. You're not protecting me, Kelsey. You're protecting yourself. That's not fair, isn't it? His eyes searched hers. I told you I loved you 2 months ago. You still haven't said it back. And now the second something good happens in your life, your first instinct is to blow this up. So tell me, what am I supposed to think? Kelsey's chest felt like it was caving in. I can't give you what you need. What do I need? Someone who shows up, someone who's present, someone who doesn't have to choose between you and saving lives. I don't want someone else. Ethan's hands came up to frame her face, gentle despite the intensity in his voice. I want you. The tired, brilliant, dedicated woman who drove across town at 2 a.m. because my daughter was sick. The woman who falls asleep on my couch after double shifts. The woman who cares so much about her patients that she forgets to take care of herself. That woman is going to disappoint you. Then I'll be disappointed, but I'm not walking away because things might get hard. That's not how love works. You don't know what you're signing up for, Kelsey said, her voice breaking. This promotion, it's going to consume me. I'm going to miss birthdays and holidays and important moments. I'm going to be exhausted and stressed and not always available when you need me. I know. Ethan's thumbs brushed away tears she hadn't realized were falling. And I'm still here. Why? The word came out as a whisper. Why would you choose this? Because you're worth it. Because what we have is worth it. Because I'd rather have part of you than all of someone else. His forehead pressed against hers. But I can't make you believe that. You have to choose to trust me. Kelsey closed her eyes, his words washing over her like a wave. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to protect herself, to end this before it could end her. But underneath the fear was something else, something that felt like hope. I don't know how, she admitted. I don't know how to believe this is real. Then let me show you. Ethan pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. Take the promotion. Be amazing at it. And let me figure out how to support you while you do. What if it's too much? What if it's not? They stood there in the quiet of his living room, the question hanging between them like a bridge. Kelsey could feel herself at a crossroads, could see the two paths stretching out in front of her. One led to safety, to the familiar pain of loneliness she'd learned to live with. The other led into the unknown, terrifying and bright. I'm scared, she whispered. I know, but I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Something in Kelsey's chest finally, irrevocably cracked open. I love you, she said, the words tumbling out rough and desperate. I love you so much it terrifies me, and I'm so afraid of losing you that I was willing to push you away first. Ethan's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, Ethan Cole. He kissed her then, deep and sure, and Kelsey felt herself falling into it, into him, into the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, this could actually work. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. So, you're taking the promotion? Kelsey laughed, shaky but real. Yeah, I think I am. Good. You're going to be incredible at it. Even when I'm never home, even then. He pulled her toward the couch, settling them both down. Kelsey tucked against his side. But we're going to need ground rules. Ground rules? Yeah, like you're allowed to miss date nights for emergencies, but you have to actually eat during your shifts. And when you're home, you're home. No apologizing for existing. Kelsey felt her throat tighten. I can try. That's all I'm asking. His arm tightened around her. We'll figure it out together. The good days and the hard days and everything in between. They sat in comfortable silence for a long moment, the reality of what had just happened settling around them. Kelsey had said the words, had chosen trust over fear, had decided to stay instead of run. It didn't make the fear disappear, but it made it manageable. Can I tell you something? Ethan said quietly. Always. I was terrified you were going to leave. When you showed up looking like that, I thought... He stopped, swallowed hard. I thought this was it. That you were going to say we were too complicated, too messy, too much work. I almost did. I know, but you didn't. He pressed a kiss to her temple. That's what matters. Kelsey shifted to look at him properly. How are you so patient with me? Because you're worth being patient for. and because I understand what it's like to be scared of losing something good. His expression turned serious. When Lily's mom left, I convinced myself I was better off alone, that it was easier to just focus on my daughter and my work and not risk getting hurt again. And then I met you, and suddenly alone didn't feel like safety anymore. It just felt lonely. I'm sorry she hurt you. I'm not anymore. Because if she hadn't left, I wouldn't be here with you. Ethan tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Sometimes the worst things lead to the best things. We just have to be brave enough to stay open to the possibility. Kelsey thought about that, about all the pain and disappointment that had led her to this moment, about Marcus and the relationships before him, about all the times she'd felt like too much, too demanding, too complicated, and how all of it had somehow brought her here, to this man, to this love. When do you start the new position? Ethan asked. 2 weeks. If I accept it officially. Are you going to? Kelsey took a deep breath, feeling the decision settle into her bones. Yeah, I am. Then we should celebrate, properly. Ethan stood, pulling her up with him. Go change into something comfortable. We're going out. It's almost 8 o'clock, and I look terrible. You look beautiful. And I know a place that's open late. He grabbed his keys, grinning at her confusion. Trust me? Kelsey found herself smiling back, genuine and unguarded. Yeah, I trust you. They ended up at an all-night diner on the edge of town, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and fluorescent lighting and the best pie Kelsey had ever tasted. Ethan ordered them coffee and chocolate cream pie, and they sat across from each other in a corner booth talking about everything and nothing. Tell me about the program, Ethan said, stealing a bite of her pie. What does lead nurse actually mean? Kelsey felt herself light up despite her exhaustion. It means I get to build the protocols from scratch. Choose the team, set the standards, create the training programs. It's everything I've wanted since I started in emergency medicine. You're going to change lives. I'm going to try. You already do, every single day. Ethan's expression was soft, proud. I'm so happy for you, Kelsey. And I'm honored I get to watch you do this amazing work. Even when it means I'm gone more than I'm here, even then, because when you are here, you're fully here, and that's enough. Kelsey reached across the table, lacing her fingers through his. I don't deserve you. Stop that. You deserve everything good that comes your way. He squeezed her hand, and I'm going to keep reminding you of that until you believe it. They stayed until the diner started filling with the late-night crowd, then drove back to his house through empty streets. Lily was still at her grandmother's, the house quiet and dark, and they moved through it like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Brushing teeth side by side, changing into comfortable clothes, sliding under covers that smelled like laundry detergent, and home. Thank you, Kelsey said into the darkness, her head on Ethan's chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. For what? For not giving up on me. For fighting for us when I was ready to run. I'll always fight for us. His hand traced patterns on her back. But I need you to fight too. I need you to believe this is worth it. I'm trying. That's all I ask. He pressed a kiss to her hair. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a good day. Kelsey closed her eyes, exhaustion finally catching up to her, and let herself believe him. Let herself imagine a future where the promotion and the relationship coexisted, where she could be both the nurse who saved lives and the woman who was loved. It felt impossible and terrifying and absolutely necessary. She fell asleep with his arms around her and hope blooming fragile in her chest. The next morning, Kelsey woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. She found Ethan in the kitchen, already dressed for work, 2 mugs waiting on the counter. Good morning, he said, sliding one toward her. I have to leave in 20 minutes for a job site, but I wanted to make sure you ate something before I left. You don't have to take care of me. I want to. There's a difference. He set a plate of toast in front of her. Eat. Then you can go back to saving the world. Kelsey took a bite, her chest warm with affection. What time are you picking up Lily? Around 3. You working tonight? Not until tomorrow. I'm off until my next shift starts. Then come to dinner. My mom wants to meet you properly, and Lily's been asking when you're coming over again. The casual invitation hit Kelsey harder than it should have, meeting his mother, being integrated into family dinners. This was real. This was happening. Are you sure? She asked. I don't want to intrude on family time. Ethan crossed to her, tilting her chin up with gentle fingers. You are family time. And my mom already loves you because Lily won't stop talking about you. What has she been saying? That you're pretty and smart and you know everything about medicine and you don't think vegetables are that bad. He grinned. High praise from a 7-year-old. Kelsey felt tears prick her eyes for the 1,000th time in the last 24 hours. Okay, yeah, I'd love to come to dinner. Good. Come around 6. He kissed her forehead, then grabbed his work bag. I'll see you tonight. And Kelsey? Yeah? I'm proud of you for taking the promotion, for choosing us, for being brave. He left before she could respond, the door closing softly behind him, and Kelsey sat alone in his kitchen drinking coffee and trying to understand how her life had changed so completely in such a short time. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to Patricia. I'm in. When do we start? The response came immediately. Monday morning, 7 a.m. Congratulations, Morgan. You're going to be brilliant. Kelsey stared at the words, letting them sink in. She'd done it. She'd said yes to the career she'd always wanted, and she'd said yes to the love she'd always been too afraid to reach for. Now she just had to figure out how to make both of them work. She spent the rest of the day preparing, going over the program details Patricia had sent her, making lists of protocols and equipment and training needs. It was overwhelming and exhilarating, the kind of work that made her feel alive, and she lost herself in it completely. By the time she looked up, it was 5:45 and she was late. Again. She drove to Ethan's mother's house with her heart in her throat, old anxieties creeping back in. What if his mother didn't like her? What if she thought Kelsey wasn't good enough for Ethan? What if this was a mistake? But when she pulled up to the small ranch-style home, Lily was already on the front porch waving frantically. Kelsey's here! Dad, she's here! Ethan appeared in the doorway, smiling that smile that always made Kelsey's stomach flip. You made it. I made it. Sorry I'm late. I got caught up in work stuff. Stop apologizing and get in here. My mom's gonna love you. Margaret Cole was exactly what Kelsey had pictured, a petite woman with Ethan's eyes and a warmth that filled the entire house. She greeted Kelsey with a hug that felt like being enveloped in safety. It's so wonderful to finally meet you properly, Margaret said, pulling back to study Kelsey's face. Ethan talks about you constantly, and Lily hasn't stopped singing your praises. All good things, I hope, Kelsey managed, overwhelmed by the welcome. The best things. Come in, sit down. Dinner's almost ready. They ate at a table that was too small for 4 people, squeezed together and passing dishes and talking over each other in the comfortable chaos of family. Lily told elaborate stories about school. Margaret shared embarrassing childhood stories about Ethan, and Ethan watched Kelsey with such open affection that she felt herself blushing. So Ethan tells me you got a promotion, Margaret said, serving Kelsey more mashed potatoes despite her protests. Congratulations, that's wonderful news. Thank you. It's a big opportunity, but it's also going to be demanding. The best things usually are. Margaret's eyes were kind, knowing, and I imagine it's going to make things complicated with my son. Mom, Ethan warned, but Margaret waved him off. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. This young woman has a demanding career and you have a daughter to raise. It's not going to be easy. Kelsey felt her defenses rising, old patterns kicking in. I know it's not ideal. I didn't say it wasn't ideal. I said it wouldn't be easy. There's a difference. Margaret reached across the table, covering Kelsey's hand with her own. My son loves you, and from what I've seen, you love him too. That's what matters. The rest is just logistics. Just logistics? Kelsey repeated, something in her chest loosening. Just logistics. You work long hours? We'll adjust. You miss family dinners? We'll save you a plate. You can't make it to every soccer game? Lily will understand because she'll know you care. Margaret squeezed her hand. Love isn't about being perfect, dear. It's about showing up however you can and trusting that it's enough. Kelsey felt tears well up for what felt like the 100th time that week. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me. Just be good to my son, and let him be good to you. Margaret released her hand and stood. Now, who wants dessert? The rest of the evening passed in a warm blur. They played board games that Lily insisted on winning through highly creative rule interpretations. They ate too much pie. And when it was time to leave, Margaret hugged Kelsey like she'd been part of the family all along. "You're good for him," she whispered in Kelsey's ear. "Don't let fear talk you out of something real." "I won't," Kelsey promised, and meant it. They drove home with Lily asleep in the back seat, her head tilted at an angle that was going to give her a sore neck. Ethan carried her inside while Kelsey followed, and they moved through the bedtime routine together, a team without having to discuss it. When Lily was tucked in and they were finally alone, Ethan pulled Kelsey into his arms. "My mom really does love you. The feeling's mutual. She's wonderful. She's also right about what she said at dinner." Ethan's hand settled on her hips. "This isn't going to be perfect. We're going to have hard days and missed moments and times when it feels impossible. But we're going to make it work anyway." Kelsey looked up at him, at this man who'd somehow seen past all her defenses, who'd chosen her despite knowing exactly how complicated she was. "I believe you." "Yeah? Yeah." She kissed him softly. "I really do." And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Kelsey let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have both. The career that fulfilled her and the love that completed her. She just had to be brave enough to reach for it. The first 3 weeks in her new position went exactly as Kelsey had feared and hoped in equal measure. She was brilliant at the work. The protocols came together seamlessly, her team respected her leadership, and the trauma program was already making a measurable difference in patient outcomes. Dr. Chen had been right to choose her. Kelsey could feel it in her bones, in the way critical cases flowed through the system with new efficiency, in the confidence of the staff she'd trained, in the lives they were saving that might have been lost before. But the cost was exactly what she'd warned Ethan about. She missed Lily's school play because a multi-vehicle pileup came in during the final dress rehearsal. She canceled 3 date nights in a row because of emergencies that couldn't wait. She fell asleep on Ethan's couch at 7 p.m. on a rare evening off, too exhausted to make it through the movie they'd planned to watch together. And through it all, Ethan stayed patient, understanding, steady, which somehow made it worse, because Kelsey kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, kept bracing for the moment when his patience would run out, when the understanding would curdle into resentment, when he'd finally admit that this wasn't what he'd signed up for. She was standing in the hospital parking lot on a Friday evening in late November, staring at her phone, when the fear finally crystallized into something she couldn't ignore anymore. The text from Ethan had come an hour ago. "Lily's birthday party tomorrow at 2. Really hope you can make it. She's been asking about you all week." Kelsey had completely forgotten, had been so consumed by the demands of her new position that a 7-year-old's birthday had slipped through the cracks entirely. She felt sick with guilt, scrolling back through her calendar to confirm what she already knew. She was scheduled to work tomorrow, had agreed to cover someone's shift 3 weeks ago, before she'd known about the party, before she'd realized how the date lined up. She could call in, could find someone else to take the shift, could choose Lily's birthday over work for once. But there was a voice in her head, insidious and familiar, whispering that this was the beginning of the end, that if she started choosing personal obligations over professional ones, she'd lose the respect she'd worked so hard to earn, that her team would see her as unreliable, unprofessional, not serious about the position she'd fought for. The voice sounded like her old supervisor from her first nursing job, the one who'd told her that if she wanted to make it in emergency medicine, she had to be willing to sacrifice everything else. It sounded like Marcus, who'd complained that she cared more about strangers than about him. It sounded like every doubt she'd ever had about whether she could actually have both the career and the life. Kelsey typed out a response with shaking hands. "I'm so sorry. I have to work tomorrow. I completely forgot about the party. Can I take her out for ice cream next week to celebrate?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then immediately felt like she was going to be sick. The reply came faster than she expected. "She'll be disappointed, but she'll understand. Don't worry about it." 4 words that felt like a knife. Don't worry about it. Because that's what people said when they were starting to give up, when they were tired of being disappointed, when they were beginning to realize that maybe this wasn't going to work after all. Kelsey drove home to her apartment, the place she'd barely slept in for the last month, and the silence was deafening. No Ethan making dinner in the kitchen. No Lily's artwork covering the fridge. No warmth or life or evidence that she was building something beyond her career. Just her, alone, exactly like she'd always been afraid she'd end up. She lasted 2 hours before the panic became unbearable. Before she grabbed her keys and drove to Ethan's house, her heart pounding and her thoughts spiraling into worst-case scenarios. He answered the door looking surprised but not unhappy to see her. "Hey, I thought you had an early shift tomorrow." "I do, I needed to talk to you." Kelsey pushed past him into the house, unable to stand still. "Is Lily asleep?" "Yeah, she went down about an hour ago. What's going on? You look—" "I can't do this." The words burst out of her like a dam breaking. "I can't keep disappointing you and disappointing her and pretending like this is sustainable. I forgot her birthday, Ethan." "What kind of person forgets a child's birthday?" Ethan closed the door carefully, his expression unreadable. "You didn't forget. You have to work. That's different." "Is it?" "Because it feels the same. It feels like I'm choosing my job over the people I care about, and eventually you're going to realize that you deserve someone who actually shows up." "Kelsey, I missed her school play. I've canceled on you 3 times this week. I barely see you anymore, and when I do, I'm too tired to be good company." She was pacing now, the words tumbling out faster than she could catch them. "You said we'd figure it out, but I don't think we can. I don't think I can be what you need me to be." "What do I need you to be?" Ethan's voice was quiet, controlled in a way that scared her more than anger would have. "Present, available, someone who puts you and Lily first instead of always putting the job first." "I never asked you to put us first." "You didn't have to ask. That's what relationships require. And I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't give you that. I've tried. And I keep failing, and I'm so tired of failing." Ethan was silent for a long moment, and in that silence, Kelsey felt the foundations of everything they'd built start to crumble. This was it. This was the moment he'd finally had enough. The moment he'd realized she'd been right all along, that she was too much work, too complicated, too broken. "Are you breaking up with me?" he asked finally, and his voice was so carefully neutral that it made her chest ache. "I think—" Kelsey forced herself to look at him, to face what she was doing. "I think it would be better for everyone if we ended this before it gets worse." "Better for everyone or better for you?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're doing it again." Ethan's control was slipping now, emotion bleeding through. "You're running scared because things are hard, because you missed a birthday party, because you think one mistake means you're failing. It's not one mistake, it's a pattern. It's 3 weeks into a new position that's demanding as hell. You're not failing, Kelsey, you're adjusting." "And what happens when the adjustment period is over and nothing changes? What happens when this is just how it is? Me working insane hours and you and Lily coming second?" Ethan crossed to her in 3 strides, his hands gripping her shoulders. "You want to know what happens? We deal with it. We find workarounds. We celebrate the moments we do have instead of mourning the ones we miss." "That's not fair to you." "Let me decide what's fair to me." His eyes were fierce now, desperate. "You don't get to make that choice for me. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need your protection. I need you to trust me." Ethan's voice cracked. "I need you to believe that I meant it when I said, I'm not going anywhere." "But you will." Kelsey felt tears streaming down her face. "Eventually, you will. Because this is too hard and I'm too much, and you'll find someone who can actually give you what you deserve." "Stop telling me what I deserve." He pulled her closer, his forehead pressing against hers. "I deserve you. The real you. The messy, brilliant, exhausted, dedicated woman standing in front of me. Not some perfect version that doesn't exist." "I don't know how to believe that." "Then let me prove it to you. But I can't do that if you keep pushing me away every time things get difficult." Kelsey closed her eyes, his words washing over her. She could feel herself at another crossroads, could sense the 2 paths diverging. One led to safety, to the familiar loneliness she knew how to navigate. The other led deeper into the unknown, into trust and vulnerability, and the terrifying possibility of actually being loved. "I'm so scared," she whispered. "I know, but you can't let fear make your decisions for you." Ethan's hands moved to cup her face, gentle and sure. "Talk to me. Really talk to me. Tell me what you're actually afraid of." Kelsey took a shaking breath. "I'm afraid that one day you're going to wake up and realize this isn't worth it. That loving me is too hard and too exhausting, and you'd be happier with someone simpler. That's never going to happen." You don't know that. Yes, I do, because I've had simple before. My ex-wife was simple, uncomplicated, easy, and she left anyway because she wanted something different. Ethan's eyes held hers. You think being easy to love is what keeps people from leaving? It's not. People leave when they are not getting what they actually need. And what I need is someone who challenges me, who has her own dreams and ambitions, who makes me want to be better. What if I can't be that and also be a good partner? What if you already are? The question stopped her cold, because in all her spiraling and self-doubt, she'd never considered that possibility. That maybe she was already enough. That maybe the metric she was measuring herself against was impossible, designed to make her fail. I forgot Lily's birthday, she said again, quieter this time. And you feel terrible about it, which tells me you care, which is what actually matters. Ethan guided her to the couch, sitting them both down. You want to know what Lily said when I told her you might not make it to the party? Kelsey shook her head, afraid to hear it. She said, "That's okay. Kelsey saves people. That's more important than cake." And then she asked if we could save her a piece to give you later. The tears came harder now, ugly and wrenching. She shouldn't have to understand. She's 7 years old. She should get to be disappointed. She can be both, disappointed and understanding. Those things can coexist. Ethan pulled her against his chest, his arms solid around her. Just like you can be both a dedicated nurse and a good partner. You don't have to choose, but I keep feeling like I do. Because you've been conditioned to think that success in one area means failure in another. But that's not true, Kelsey. You can have both. You just have to stop punishing yourself every time you can't be in two places at once. Kelsey let herself sink into his embrace, exhaustion and emotion catching up to her all at once. I don't know how to stop. Then we figure it out together. But you have to let me in. You have to stop making unilateral decisions about what's best for us and actually include me in the conversation. I thought I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. And I get it. I understand why. But if this is going to work, you have to let me choose to stay, even when it's hard, even when you think I'd be better off leaving. Kelsey pulled back enough to look at him, really look at him, at the man who'd stayed patient through her panic attacks and cancellations and self-sabotage, who'd told his daughter that saving lives was more important than cake, who kept showing up over and over, even when she gave him every reason not to. I don't deserve you, she said. Stop saying that. You deserve everything good that comes your way. Even when I'm a mess? Especially then. Ethan brushed tears off her cheeks with his thumbs. You think I don't have my own mess? You think raising a kid alone is easy? We're both doing our best with complicated situations. The only difference is I'm not constantly waiting for you to give up on me. The words hit like a physical blow. Because he was right. She'd been so focused on when he would leave that she'd never considered that he might be afraid too. That this was hard for him too. That choosing her meant accepting uncertainty and irregular schedules and a partner who couldn't always be there. I'm sorry, Kelsey whispered. I'm so sorry for assuming the worst, for trying to make your decisions for you, for not trusting you. I don't need your apology. I need your trust. Ethan's hands found hers, lacing their fingers together. Can you give me that? Kelsey thought about it, really thought about it. About what it would mean to actually trust him, to believe him when he said he wasn't leaving, to stop waiting for the inevitable end and just live in the present. It was terrifying, but so was the alternative. I can try, she said finally. I can't promise I won't spiral again. I can't promise I won't have moments where I'm convinced this is falling apart, but I can promise to try, to talk to you instead of making assumptions, to let you decide what you can handle instead of deciding for you who is thank you. That's all I'm asking. Ethan pressed a kiss to her forehead. Now, about tomorrow. I have to work. I can't get out of the shift. I know, and that's okay, but after your shift, come over. We'll still have cake. Lily will still want to show you her presence. It doesn't have to be perfect to be good. You're sure? I'm sure. He pulled her closer. And Kelsey, next time you feel yourself spiraling, come to me. Don't sit alone in your apartment convincing yourself we're doomed. Come here. Talk to me. Let me remind you that we're okay. What if I come to you too much? Not possible. His smile was soft, genuine. You could never be too much for me. They sat in the quiet of his living room, the house settling around them, and Kelsey felt something shift. Not the fear disappearing completely, that might never happen, but a new understanding, a new framework for how to exist in this relationship without constantly bracing for disaster. "Can I stay tonight?" she asked quietly. "You never have to ask." They moved through the nighttime routine with easy familiarity. Kelsey borrowed one of his t-shirts. They brushed teeth side by side, climbed into bed and tangled together like puzzle pieces designed to fit. "Ethan?" Kelsey said into the darkness. "Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for letting me stay." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "Get some sleep. You have a long shift tomorrow." "And then cake?" "And then cake." Kelsey closed her eyes, his warmth solid against her back, and let herself believe it. Let herself trust that tomorrow would come, and she'd finish her shift, and she'd come back here. And he'd still be waiting. That maybe, just maybe, she could actually have this. She fell asleep with his arm around her and hope, fragile but real, taking root in her chest. The next day passed in the organized chaos that Kelsey had learned to thrive in. 3 critical cases, 2 successful resuscitations, and a training session with her new team that went better than expected. She was good at this work, great at it even. And for the first time, she let herself feel proud of that without the accompanying guilt. When her shift ended, she drove to Ethan's house with a carefully wrapped present in the passenger seat and butterflies in her stomach. She didn't know what to expect. Didn't know if Lily would be upset, if the party would be over, if she'd missed everything that mattered. But when she knocked on the door, Lily answered with a squeal of delight. "Kelsey, you came! Dad said you'd come after work, and you did!" The pure joy in her voice made Kelsey's chest tight. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I missed the party." "That's okay. We saved you cake. And I got a bike. Want to see it?" Lily dragged her inside before she could answer, chattering about presents and friends and the games they'd played. Ethan appeared from the kitchen, an apron tied around his waist and flour on his cheek, looking tired but happy. "Told you we'd still have cake," he said, grinning. The kitchen table was covered in the remnants of a birthday party, streamers, plates, a partially eaten cake that said "Happy Birthday, Lily" in slightly wonky frosting. It was imperfect and beautiful, and Kelsey felt something in her chest loosen completely. "I brought a present," she said, holding out the wrapped package. Lily tore into it with the enthusiasm only a 7-year-old could muster, revealing the medical play set Kelsey had spent an hour picking out, complete with toy stethoscope, bandages, and a stuffed animal patient. "This is so cool!" Lily immediately draped the stethoscope around her neck. "Now I can be a doctor like you." "I'm a nurse, actually, but you could definitely be a doctor if you wanted." "Can I be both?" "You can be anything you want." They spent the evening in that easy rhythm Kelsey was learning to trust. Lily showed off her presents and her new bike and her birthday cards. They ate cake that was too sweet and sang an off-key rendition of the birthday song. And when Lily finally crashed from the sugar high, falling asleep on the couch mid-sentence, Ethan carried her to bed while Kelsey cleaned up the kitchen. "You didn't have to do that," Ethan said, returning to find the dishes washed and the table cleared. "I wanted to. I missed the party. The least I can do is clean up after." "Stop punishing yourself." He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. "You were here for the important part. The part where Lily got to show you everything and feel special. That's what matters." "I almost wasn't here at all," Kelsey admitted. "I almost talked myself out of coming, convinced myself that I'd messed up too badly." "But you didn't. You came anyway." Ethan's eyes searched hers. "That's growth, Kelsey. That's progress." She thought about that, about how close she'd come to ending everything the night before, about how different this moment felt from the panic that had consumed her, about how choosing to trust him had led to this, messy and imperfect and absolutely right. "I love you," she said, the words coming easier now. "I love you, and I love Lily, and I'm so grateful you didn't let me run away. I love you too, and I'm going to keep not letting you run away for as long as you'll have me. That might be a long time." "Good." He kissed her, soft and sure, "because I'm not going anywhere." They stood in the quiet kitchen, the house settling around them, and Kelsey let herself feel it. The fear was still there, lurking in the background. But it was smaller now, manageable, because she'd faced the worst-case scenario in her head, had tried to end things to protect herself, and he'd stayed anyway. He'd stayed. And maybe that was enough to build on. Maybe that was the foundation she'd been searching for all along. Not perfection, not the absence of difficulty, but the willingness to stay, to work through it, to choose each other even when it was hard. "Come on," Ethan said, taking her hand. "Let's go to bed. Tomorrow's Sunday. We can sleep in." "I have to be at the hospital by noon." "Then we sleep in until 11. He grinned at her expression. "See? Compromise." Kelsey laughed, genuine and light, and let him lead her down the hallway. Let herself imagine Sunday morning. Let herself trust that there would be more mornings like this. More imperfect, beautiful moments where they figured it out together. She was still scared, still certain she'd mess up again. Still convinced that loving someone this much gave them the power to destroy her. But for the first time, she believed they might actually make it. And that belief, fragile and new, felt like everything. The belief grew stronger over the months that followed, but it didn't come easily. There were still hard days, days when Kelsey worked 18-hour shifts and came home too exhausted to speak. Days when she missed important moments despite her best intentions. Days when the old fear crept back in and whispered that she was failing, that this couldn't last, that she was asking too much. But there were good days too, better days. Days that taught her what love actually looked like when it was real. It was a Tuesday in March when everything finally crystallized. Kelsey had been at the hospital for 14 hours straight, dealing with a mass casualty incident that had pushed her team to their absolute limits. A construction accident had sent 12 workers to the ER, and she'd spent the entire day coordinating care, making split-second decisions, and watching her protocols save lives in real time. She was exhausted and exhilarated in equal measure, her scrubs covered in stains she didn't want to identify, her hair escaping its ponytail in every direction. She should have gone home to her apartment, showered, slept for 12 hours. Instead, she found herself driving to Ethan's house at 9 p.m. on a school night, unable to shake the need to see him. He answered the door in sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, clearly not expecting company. "Kelsey? What are you doing here? I thought you were working until midnight. We cleared the last patient an hour ago. Can I come in?" "Of course." He stepped aside, concern etched into his features. "Are you okay? You look... I saved 3 lives today." The words came out breathless, wonder threading through the exhaustion. 3 people who might have died if we hadn't had the protocols in place. If we hadn't trained the team exactly right. If we hadn't been ready. Ethan's expression shifted from worry to understanding. "You did that. We did that. The whole team. But I built it. I created the system that made it possible." Kelsey felt tears pricking her eyes, overwhelmed by the enormity of it. "And I kept thinking, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't taken the promotion, if I hadn't chosen to believe this could work." "Come here." Ethan pulled her into his arms, and she collapsed against him, the weight of the day finally catching up. "I'm so proud of you. I almost gave this up, almost walked away from everything because I was too scared to believe I could have it. But you didn't. You stayed. You fought for it." His hands rubbed slow circles on her back. That took courage. Kelsey pulled back enough to look at him, really look at him. At this man who'd weathered her storms and never once asked her to be less than she was. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. You're brilliant all on your own." Ethan's smile was soft, genuine. "But I'm glad you didn't have to." "Is Lily asleep?" "Yeah, she went down about an hour ago." "Why?" "Because I need to tell you something, and I don't want an audience." Concern flickered across his face again. "Okay. That sounds ominous." Kelsey took his hand, leading him to the couch they'd sat on countless times before. But this felt different, bigger, like she was standing on the edge of something that would change everything. "I've been thinking," she started, then stopped, trying to organize the thoughts that had been building for months. "About what you said. About me always waiting for you to leave. About how I kept trying to protect myself instead of actually trusting you." "Kelsey, let me finish, please." She took a shaking breath. You were right. About all of it. I was so convinced that I had to choose between my career and having a life that I never considered I could have both. That I was worth having both. You are worth it. I know that now, or I'm starting to anyway. She squeezed his hand. And it's because of you, because you kept showing up even when I gave you every reason not to, because you never asked me to be less ambitious or less dedicated or less myself. Ethan's eyes were bright with emotion. Where's this going? I want to move in with you. The words came out in a rush, terrifying and thrilling. Not because it's convenient or because I'm here all the time anyway, but because I want to build a life with you. A real life. One where I stop keeping one foot out the door just in case. She watched his face, saw the shock register, then the joy breaking through like sunrise. Are you serious? Completely serious. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to help Lily with her homework and have family dinners and figure out how to make this messy, complicated life work together. Kelsey felt tears streaming down her face. I want to stop being afraid of wanting things. Ethan cupped her face in his hands, his own eyes wet. Yes, obviously yes. You didn't even have to ask. I did have to ask, because this isn't about convenience or logistics. This is me choosing you, choosing us, choosing to believe that I deserve this. He kissed her then, deep and sure and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. You have no idea how long I've wanted to hear you say that, he murmured. I'm sorry it took me so long. Stop apologizing. He pulled back, grinning through tears. You're here now. That's what matters. They sat in the quiet of the living room, the magnitude of the decision settling around them. Kelsey felt lighter than she had in months, like she'd been carrying a weight she hadn't realized was there until it was gone. When do you want to do this? Ethan asked. Move in, I mean. Is next month too soon? Next month is perfect. We can clear out the guest room, turn it into your space for when you need to decompress after shifts. His mind was already working, planning. And we should probably tell Lily together. Make sure she's okay with it. What if she's not? She will be. She's been asking me when you're going to live with us for the last 2 months. Ethan's smile was warm, certain. She loves you, Kelsey, almost as much as I do. The word should have scared her. A year ago, they would have sent her running. But now they just felt true. I love her too. So much it terrifies me sometimes. That's how you know it's real. Ethan stood, pulling her up with him. Come on, let's go to bed. You're dead on your feet. I should go home. Shower. You're home. And you can shower here. He led her down the hallway to his bedroom. Their bedroom, she realized with a jolt of joy. I'll get you a towel. Kelsey stood under the hot spray, washing away the day's chaos, and let herself feel it. The rightness of this decision. The certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The understanding that loving someone didn't mean losing yourself. It meant becoming more fully who you were meant to be. When she emerged, wrapped in one of Ethan's t-shirts that had become as much hers as his, he was already in bed, reading by the soft glow of the bedside lamp. He looked up as she entered, and the expression on his face was so full of love that it took her breath away. What? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. Nothing. Just thinking about how lucky I am. He set down his book, holding up the covers in invitation. Come here. Kelsey slid in beside him, tucking herself against his side, her head on his chest. His heartbeat was steady beneath her ear, grounding her in the present moment. Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing past all my defenses and loving me anyway. You don't have to thank me for that. Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. His arm tightened around her. Even on the hard days, even when you're spiraling, even when you're convinced you're too much, you're exactly right for me. Kelsey closed her eyes, letting the words sink in, letting herself finally, completely believe them. They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Kelsey didn't dream about things falling apart. She dreamed about building something new. The next morning, they told Lily over breakfast. So, Ethan started, glancing at Kelsey for support. Kelsey and I have something we want to talk to you about. Lily looked up from her cereal, eyes widening with interest. Are you getting married? Kelsey nearly choked on her coffee. What? No. I mean, not yet. That's not... But maybe someday? Lily pressed, completely unfazed by Kelsey's floundering. Let's focus on the actual news, Ethan interjected, trying not to laugh. Kelsey is going to move in with us. She's going to live here all the time, not just some of the time. Lily's face lit up like someone had plugged her into an electrical socket. Really? Like forever? Like for as long as everyone's happy with it, Kelsey said carefully. But yeah, I'm going to live here. Is that okay with you? Are you kidding? That's the best news ever. Lily launched herself at Kelsey, nearly knocking over the orange juice. Does this mean you can help me with my science project? Dad's terrible at science. Hey, Ethan protested. I'm not terrible. You told me plants eat dirt. That's basically true. It's not even a little bit true. Lily rolled her eyes with the dramatic flair only a 7-year-old could muster, then turned back to Kelsey. So will you help me? Of course I'll help you. What's the project? We have to grow plants and record what happens, but I want to do something cool, like see if plants grow better with music or something. We can definitely do that. Kelsey felt warmth spreading through her chest. This was real. This was happening. She was going to be part of their daily lives in a way that felt permanent and right. After breakfast, Lily dragged Kelsey upstairs to show her exactly where her stuff should go and which drawer she should use and where they could put a bookshelf for her medical journals. Ethan followed, leaning against the doorframe and watching them plan with an expression of pure contentment. And this can be your desk, Lily was saying, pointing to the corner by the window. So you can look outside when you're thinking about nurse stuff. That's perfect. Kelsey sat on the edge of the bed, their bed, and pulled Lily close. Thank you for being so excited about this. Why wouldn't I be excited? Now you'll be here all the time. We can have pancakes every Sunday and watch movies, and you can teach me medical things. Lily paused, suddenly serious. And when you have to work late, you'll still come home here, right? Not to your old apartment? Right. This will be home. I'll always come home here. Good. Lily hugged her tight, then bounced off toward her own room. I'm going to draw you a welcome sign for your drawer. When she was gone, Ethan crossed to Kelsey and pulled her to her feet. You okay? You look a little overwhelmed. I'm more than okay. Kelsey struggled to find the words. I'm happy, really, genuinely happy, and I'm not waiting for something to go wrong. That's progress. He kissed her forehead. I'm happy too. Happier than I've been in a long time. Even though I'm going to leave medical journals everywhere and probably fall asleep on the couch after night shifts? Especially then. His eyes were warm, full of certainty. I want all of it, the mess and the chaos and the beautiful disaster that is your life, our life. Our life, Kelsey repeated, testing out the words. I like the sound of that. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of packing and moving and reorganizing. Kelsey's apartment got cleared out. Her furniture integrated into Ethan's house in ways that made it feel like their space rather than just his. She set up a corner office in the guest room, a place to decompress after difficult shifts. Her coffee mugs filled the kitchen cabinets. Her photos joined the ones already covering the walls. And slowly, imperceptibly, the house became home. There were adjustments, learning to share space with another adult after years of living alone, figuring out morning routines that worked for all three of them, navigating the delicate balance of being a partner and a parental figure without overstepping. But there were also moments of unexpected joy. Coming home after a brutal shift to find Ethan had left her dinner in the oven with a note that said, "Proud of you." Walking into the living room to find Lily curled up on the couch, reading one of Kelsey's old nursing textbooks, trying to sound out the medical terms. Saturday mornings where they all slept late and then made elaborate breakfasts together, flower fights and all. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely right. 3 months after Kelsey moved in, on a quiet Sunday afternoon in June, she found herself in the backyard watching Ethan teach Lily how to use his power drill on a birdhouse project. The sun was warm, the air smelled like freshly cut grass, and there was nowhere else in the world she wanted to be. You're staring, Ethan called over, grinning at her. I'm appreciating, Kelsey corrected. There's a difference. Can Kelsey help too? Lily asked, looking up from the wood she was carefully drilling. If she wants to, but fair warning, this is a very serious construction project. We have standards. Kelsey set down her book and joined them, and Ethan immediately handed her a piece of sandpaper. You're on smoothing duty. Make sure there are no splinters that could hurt the birds. The birds are very particular, Lily added solemnly. I can see that. Kelsey settled onto the grass beside them, working on sanding the rough edges while Lily drilled and Ethan supervised. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the kind that didn't need to be filled with words. Kelsey found herself thinking about how far she'd come from that first disastrous date. From the woman who'd shown up an hour late convinced she'd already ruined everything. From someone who couldn't believe she deserved to take up space. What are you thinking about? Ethan asked, reading her expression. Just how different things are now. How different I am. Different how? Happier, more settled, less afraid all the time. Kelsey looked up from her sanding. I used to think that needing people was a weakness, that the only way to protect myself was to be completely self-sufficient. And now? Now I know that letting people in is actually the bravest thing you can do. She glanced at Lily, then back at Ethan. You taught me that, both of you. Lily looked up, confused. I taught you something, but you're the one who knows everything. I don't know everything, sweetheart, and you've taught me a lot. About being patient with myself, about finding joy in small moments, about how love doesn't have to be complicated to be real. That's a lot of big words, Lily said, scrunching her nose. But I think you're saying you're happy here? I'm saying I'm exactly where I want to be. Good. Because we're keeping you. Lily went back to her drilling with the confidence of someone who'd made an executive decision. Ethan caught Kelsey's eye over Lily's head, and the look that passed between them was full of understanding, promise, and something that looked a lot like forever. Later that evening, after Lily was in bed and they were cleaning up the dinner dishes, Ethan pulled Kelsey away from the sink. Dance with me. What? Why? Because I want to. Because we never got to dance on our first date. Because I love you. He was already pulling out his phone, queuing up a song. Just humor me. Soft music filled the kitchen, and Ethan pulled her close, swaying gently in the space between the counter and the table. It was ridiculous and perfect, dancing in a kitchen that smelled like dish soap while water dripped from their hands. This is silly, Kelsey said, but she was smiling. All the best things are. Ethan spun her gently, then pulled her back against him. I've been thinking about something. Should I be worried? Probably not, but I wanted to run it by you before I did anything official. He took a breath. I want to ask you to marry me. Kelsey's heart stopped. What? Not right now. Not tonight. But soon. And I wanted to make sure that's something you'd actually want before I planned anything. His eyes searched hers. Is that something you'd want? Marriage? Legally making this permanent? Kelsey felt tears welling up, the good kind this time. You want to marry me? Even though I work insane hours and forget important dates and sometimes disappear into my head for days at a time. Especially because of all that. Because you're passionate about your work. Because you care so deeply about everything you do. Because you're you, and I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else. Ethan's hands framed her face. So, is that a yes? Or do you need time to think about it? It's a yes. The words came out sure and strong. It's absolutely a yes. I want to marry you, Ethan Cole. I want to build a life with you and Lily. I want all of it. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts. Because I finally understand that the hard parts don't mean we're failing. They just mean we're living. Kelsey pulled him down for a kiss, deep and certain. When were you thinking of asking officially? I don't know yet. I wanted to get Lily involved in planning it. Make it something all three of us do together. That's perfect. Kelsey felt like her heart might actually burst. Have I mentioned that I love you? Not in the last 5 minutes. He grinned. I was starting to worry. Ma, I love you. I love you for being patient with me, for never asking me to be less than I am, for showing me what it looks like when someone actually means it when they say they're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, Ethan confirmed. Not ever. You're stuck with me. Promise? Promise. They swayed in the kitchen for a while longer, the dishes forgotten, the music playing softly in the background, and Kelsey let herself feel it all. The joy, the certainty, the profound relief of finally letting herself have something good without waiting for it to be taken away. Because this was real. This was lasting. This was what happened when you stopped running from love and started running toward it instead. The official proposal came 2 months later, on an ordinary Tuesday that turned extraordinary. Kelsey had just finished a particularly difficult shift, a teenager who hadn't made it despite their best efforts, the kind of loss that made her question everything. She drove home exhausted and heartsick, ready to fall into bed and try to forget. But when she walked through the door, she found the house lit with candles, and Lily, standing in the middle of the living room wearing her fanciest dress and holding a bouquet of flowers that was almost as big as she was. "You're home," Lily said, bouncing with barely contained excitement. "We've been waiting forever." "What's going on?" Kelsey looked around, confused. "Why are there candles everywhere? Is something wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." Ethan appeared from the kitchen, also dressed up, looking nervous and hopeful and absolutely certain all at once. "We just have something we want to ask you." "Both of you?" "Both of us." Lily thrust the flowers into Kelsey's hands, then grabbed her other hand and pulled her toward the couch. "You have to sit down for this part. Dad said it's important." Kelsey sat, her heart starting to race, the exhaustion of the shift fading in the face of whatever this was. Ethan sat beside her while Lily stood in front of them, clearly taking her role very seriously. "Kelsey," Lily started, her voice solemn, "you've been living with us for 5 months now, and you're really good at it. You help with homework, and you make Dad happy, and you taught me how to take my temperature without a thermometer." "With a thermometer, sweetie," Kelsey corrected gently. "I taught you how to use a thermometer." "Right, that." Lily waved off the correction. "Anyway, Dad and I were talking, and we decided we want you to stay forever. Like, officially forever." Kelsey's eyes were already filling with tears. "Lily, I'm not done yet." Lily held up a hand, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Dad has something to ask you, but I wanted to ask first, will you be my mom? Like, not replacing my real mom because she's still out there somewhere, but being the mom who's actually here, who shows up, who cares?" The question hit Kelsey like a physical force. She'd been prepared for Ethan to propose, had known it was coming, but this, Lily asking her to be her mother, this was something else entirely. "I would be honored," Kelsey managed through tears. "I would be so honored to be your mom, Lily." "Really?" Lily's eyes were bright. "You mean it?" "I absolutely mean it. I love you so much, sweetheart, and I'm not going anywhere." Lily launched herself at Kelsey, hugging her tight, and Kelsey held on like she was something precious. When they finally pulled apart, Lily turned to Ethan. "Okay, your turn." Ethan laughed, wiping his own eyes, and slid off the couch onto one knee. "Well, I had this whole speech planned, but I think Lily kind of stole my thunder." "I did not," Lily protested. "I just went first. You can still do your speech." "Thank you for your permission." Ethan pulled out the ring, and Kelsey's breath caught. It was perfect, simple, elegant, exactly right. "Kelsey Morgan, from the moment you walked into that restaurant covered in someone else's blood, I knew you were different. I knew you were someone worth fighting for. And every day since then, you've proven me right. Ethan, let me finish. You've made me better. You've made our family complete. You've taught me that love doesn't mean making yourself smaller. It means finding someone who makes space for all that you are." His voice cracked. "I love your dedication to your work. I love your messy hair after double shifts. I love how you care so much about everyone that you forget to take care of yourself. I love every part of you, and I want to spend the rest of my life loving you. So Kelsey Morgan, will you marry me?" "Yes." The word came out as a sob. "Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, just like everything else about this moment. Lily cheered, jumping up and down, and Ethan pulled Kelsey into his arms, kissing her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. When they finally broke apart, all three of them crying and laughing, Lily wedged herself between them. "Are we doing a group hug? Because we should definitely do a group hug." They did. The three of them tangled together, and Kelsey felt something slot into place. This was her family. This was home. This was everything she'd been too afraid to let herself want. "I had a terrible day today," she admitted quietly. "Lost a patient, a kid. And I was driving home thinking about how empty my old apartment would have felt, how I would have had to process that alone." "But you didn't come home to an empty apartment," Ethan said. "You came home to us." "I came home to us," Kelsey repeated, the truth of it settling into her bones. And that makes all the difference. They spent the rest of the evening celebrating, ordered too much takeout, called family and friends, let Lily stay up way past her bedtime because it was a special occasion. And when Lily finally crashed, sprawled across the couch in her fancy dress, Ethan carried her to bed while Kelsey cleaned up. She stood in the kitchen, looking at the ring on her finger, and marveled at how different this felt from every other relationship she'd tried to make work. There was no fear lurking underneath the joy, no waiting for the other shoe to drop, just certainty, just peace, just the profound understanding that she'd found what she'd been searching for all along. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked, returning to find her lost in thought. "Just that I'm happy, really, truly happy, and I'm not afraid of it anymore." That's quite a shift from the woman who showed up on my doorstep ready to break up with me because she got a promotion. I was an idiot. You were scared. There's a difference. He pulled her close. But you're not scared anymore. No, I'm not. Kelsey looked up at him, this man who'd seen past every defense, who'd loved her through every spiral, who'd never once asked her to be anything other than exactly who she was. You know what the best part is? What? I finally understand that your love doesn't ask me to be less. It asks me to be more. More myself, more honest, more present, more willing to take up the space I deserve. She smiled. The right person doesn't ask you to shrink. They help you grow. And you help me grow too. You've made me braver, more willing to take risks, more open to possibility. Ethan pressed a kiss to her forehead. We're good for each other. We really are. They stood in the kitchen where they'd danced months ago, where they'd had their first real conversation about a future together, and Kelsey felt the last piece of fear finally release its grip, because this was it. This was the life she'd been too afraid to reach for, the career that fulfilled her, the love that completed her, the family that chose her every single day. And she'd almost walked away from it because she couldn't believe she deserved it. But she did deserve it. She deserved all of it. And more importantly, she finally believed that truth all the way down to her bones. Come on, Ethan said, taking her hand. Let's go to bed. We have the rest of our lives to figure out the details. The rest of our lives, Kelsey repeated, testing the words. I like the sound of that. Me too. They walked down the hallway hand in hand, past Lily's room where she was sprawled across her bed like a starfish, past the guest room that had become Kelsey's office, into the bedroom they shared. And Kelsey thought about how different this felt from her old apartment, from the life she'd lived before, from the person she'd been when she'd first walked into that restaurant convinced she'd already ruined everything. She'd been so wrong. She hadn't ruined anything. She'd just been at the beginning of understanding what it meant to be truly seen, truly loved, truly home. As she fell asleep in Ethan's arms, the ring heavy and perfect on her finger, Kelsey finally understood the lesson she'd spent her whole life learning. The right person doesn't ask you to be less. They build a life big enough for all that you are. They make space for your dreams and your chaos and your dedication. They love you not despite your complexity, but because of it. And when you find that person, when you find that love, you hold on tight. You stop running. You stop waiting for disaster. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You just live. Fully, messily, beautifully. You just love. Completely, honestly, without holding back. Because in the end, that's what makes life worth living. Not the absence of difficulty, not the guarantee of perfection, but the presence of someone who sees you, really sees you, and chooses to stay anyway. Kelsey had found that. Against all odds, despite all her fears, she'd found it, and she was never letting it go.